Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today I want to talk about something about how many Americans see themselves as the luckiest people in the world just because they live in America. They assume there's nothing better. And it's just not true. Our healthcare is far too expensive for the quality it is. And a lot of that comes from middleman, you know, charges. The insurance companies, more or less. They gotta make that extra cash, gotta make that buck. Our pay for work is atrocious. We're still at $7.25 an hour as a minimum wage in the nation. You get paid what, $8 at McDonald's in the US. Meanwhile, one that keeps getting mentioned is Denmark, $22 an hour for the same job. You get better benefits earlier. It's because people keep trying to say America's the greatest country in the world. You'll never find something so great. Yeah, you will. There's a lot screwed up with America right now. The education system. Good Lord, I've been watching these react videos. What's the dumbest thing an American has ever said to you? Now, maybe some of them are over exaggerated or whatever, but there's some I hear and I can completely I can completely believe that. Honestly, America's IQ feels like it's dropped over the years. We used to have some brilliant people education going on all over this nation. But now there's groups who look at education as elitism. And that is not what it should be. It should be something for the everyday American that we can be better educated. We are back in the Gilded Age. I keep stating this for people to hear it and understand. We are in the second Gilded Age, much like the first Gilded Age, where you had big names like Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Carnegie, Vanderbilt. Today, it's people like Bezos, Gates, Musk. You know, we are in an age, once again, of predatory capitalism. People talk about, oh, the inflation is killing us. Inflation. No, it's company greed that is driving up prices. Pure and simple. Think about it. Some of these companies are making record profits. Not just profit, not just profitable, but record profits. That means they're not suffering from something that would normally cause inflation. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure there's a tiny bit because they more or less forced inflation. Because other companies have to purchase from them and thus prices do rise because of the greed of these companies. But we know it's about 60% just pure, unadulterated greed. Like I said, we're in an age of predatory, late stage capitalism where it's, devour your consumers to make more money. Yeah. But this doesn't mean you abandon the country. I mean, I can understand people moving away because they feel there's no way for the country to get better. But that's not necessarily true. It can be fixed. There'll have to be some hammering down of regulations and pushing back on, like I said, the predatory capitalism that goes on. Taxing the rich, the corporations, it don't matter. There should be a mandatory percentage corporations must pay. You can't have loopholes on everything giving you zero to pay. No. They must pay a share. Instead, we're finding the majority of taxes comes off the backs of the working class, the middle class, the poor. Not your rich, not your corporations. A lot of them end up paying zero. It's seems like the biggest portion comes from those who are working, are middle class, and thus, because they see so many people who's poor and they're like, well, they're getting to take advantage of this. I don't. I got to pay my tax. These are moochers. No, it's because the country has set it up for us to attack one another while the rich just sit there and gets to count their money. It's not your neighbor who is poor, who is immigrant. That is the cause of this. It's the rich, the corporations. Honestly. There needs to be a hammer down on them. If they threaten to move, ban them from having access to the American market. That's what I would do, honestly. I'll say, if you don't want to pay the taxes, then you don't deserve to have access to the American consumers as a market. Pure and simple. That's just the way it is. If they decide to stay in the U.S. but hide their money away in tax havens. If we can trace that your money's been hidden into a tax haven somewhere, even though we can't access it, we will fine you. That, I think, is what should happen. You know, it shouldn't all come down on the backs of the poor, the middle class, the working class Americans. The rich and the corporations need to pay their fair share. This predatory capitalism, this late stage capitalism, no, it cannot last as is. We need a public health care system, the minimum wage hiked at least double. We need some solidified tax rules put on the rich and the corporations with no loopholes. Period. Period. We need educational systems that are public to be made very cheap. You know, private schools should not be getting public funds to cover their butts. You're in a private school, a school for the rich already. If you want to be in that private school, then go ahead and take your money from private sources. Public funds should go to public education. Period. There just needs to be a huge change in the way we do things. We need to set it up to not just fix the system, but to ban any shot of a third, Gilded Age from ever coming to be if we get it fixed. But yeah, it's just something I kind of wanted to talk about today. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tries to tell you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, later.